Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is JDrive Certified, and today, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be doing the first of two videos I'm going to be releasing, either on the same day or across different days. I'm not sure yet, but I've done this recording before, but, you know, it got corrupted because I ran out of space, so I'm doing it again. But basically, over the course of the past 2 years, I have been working on a CS2 map concept, and it's taken me so long to just work on the concept because, you know, given the competitive nature of the map-making space in Counter-Strike, I've wanted it to be perfect, right? I want to do everything right. I'm really aiming for the stars here. I want a map to make it into the active duty map pool. I'm aware that that goal is extremely lofty. But ultimately, it's a matter of time, right? It's a matter of dedication. It's a matter of really putting myself into it and giving myself enough time to make sure that everything is perfect, because a lot of people don't take enough time. And a lot of people will accidentally create something mediocre because they're emotionally invested in it and they don't realize the problems. They don't realize that there's replayability problems, and, you know, I'm not going to make that same mistake. I'm not going to, and so I've been taking very long to make this happen. And over the course of the last 2 years that I'm working on this, I've obviously been inspired by a lot of workshop maps, a lot of community maps, just taking inspiration from those. And there are two workshop maps in particular that have really kind of guided me philosophically as far as, like, you know, some new, fun, fresh ideas, just kind of reaching into the past to inform me as to what the future could look like. And so I'm going to be taking a look at those two maps. The first of which is a map from 1.6, a community map by two creators. I forget one of their names, but I know one of them is Pastuch, who I will or Pasta. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but yeah, I'm probably going to be tagging them in this video because I want them to see this. But I'm just going to be doing reviews of these maps. And the first one is Abaddon, or Abaddon, or Abaddon, or however you want to pronounce this. Yeah, this map is very interesting. It's very unique. It's one that has given me insight into what a map like this could look like. Abaddon is pretty straightforward as far as Counter-Strike maps goes. You know, you've got a CT spawn that's connected to a bomb site. It's got 3 lanes. The thing that makes this map so unique is this entire middle area. This middle area defines how Abaddon plays, because usually when you have a map like this, like say it was a Mirage or a Dust 2, right, things are going to be a little more closed off. You're not necessarily going to be able to see from one lane all the way over to the other. That's very unique to Abaddon, and it's part of what makes it so much fun, in my opinion. You really have to use utility and aggressive gunfighting to take definitive control of mid, and taking control of mid is, or, you know, this mid section that is very important to the way that Abaddon plays. Now, between the two maps that I'll be reviewing, this map, I definitely prefer the T side. Not the CT side doesn't suck or anything, but the way the T side plays on Abaddon is just so much fun to me. I love it. Which is actually opposed to the way the other map I'll be reviewing next works, where I actually prefer the CT side, just as a little leak for you. But yeah, so the CT side, the way I like to play this is, and by the way, I'm just going to be doing theory reviews because I haven't gotten the opportunity. I've really only been playing with bots, but I've been playing with bots a lot. I've not gotten the opportunity to, like, 10-man these maps, and I haven't been able to find a lot of footage for, like, some 5v5 scenarios on this map. So a lot of what I'm doing is going to be theory crafting, and the reason I'm making these videos is because I want to hear what you guys think about this theory crafting. Do you agree with it? Is it, if you were someone who played these maps, was it true? Was the theory crafting correct? I'm just curious to hear what you guys hear. And I am looking at these from the scope of Counter-Strike 2, because I'm looking toward the future with the way that these maps are designed. So I'm not looking at this map from a 1.6 perspective. I'm looking at it from a CS2 perspective. But the way I like to play the T side is the T-side philosophy for me is a story of 4 smokes, right? Taking mid control all at once, especially as a player who is the only one on their team throwing utility, because obviously I'm playing with bots, right? There are 4 different pieces of map control you want to be taking as far as mid goes, and depending on how those fights work, or depending on how your utility goes, that is a determiner of how you should decide to end your round, right? And this is just as far as like defaulting goes. Obviously, you can have set calls out of spawn where you say, okay, we're going to take long, or we're going to take tunnels, or we're going to take B. But this is how I like to think about it from just a default standpoint. So this is a story of 4 smokes. The first of which is right here. Now, bear with me, these lineups are a little rough. They're not terribly consistent. I haven't really put too much thought into like getting them absolutely perfect, but they do what I need them to most of the time, and so I've been throwing them every time. This is the first one. This is going to be a smoke that's thrown toward A long, and this is my A long take smoke. Anytime I'm wanting to take A long, or basically just prevent it from being a problem, this is the smoke I throw. The core philosophy of the smoke is you really want to block this corner. It's kind of the same story as the Dust 2 long corner smoke, where you're wanting to prevent someone from really abusing this corner and getting into that mid portion fast and taking easy and free fights, especially if they have the op. And the other advantage that you get from this smoke, as I rethrow it here. Hello? wait a second. Why didn't that work? Hold on, let me go through it again. Funny. Alright. Did I misspell rethrow? Rethrow last grenade? No, that should work. Okay, weird. Yeah, no, this is really supposed to block the corner, and what's nice is you get a gap on the right side. That is a T player, you can kind of play around the smoke, right? Isolate your angles, take your fights, right? As soon as you're past the smoke, because you're using the smoke as a tool to either block long aggression, because CTs can aggress long pretty easily and become a nuisance. As far as this fight goes, especially if you're doing like a B long take, this angle can be really annoying to play against if you don't have an AWP, especially if they do have an AWP. It can be very annoying, so blocking this corner is very important. Let's try that again, shall we? Rethrow last grenade. Am I an idiot? Oh my goodness, I am an idiot. Okay, whoops. Yeah, so blocking this corner, very important. I can't believe that. So yeah, it makes your takes easier for really any part of the map, but for long in particular, or A long in particular, it makes it very easy. As soon as you're past this point, as far as doing like an A long take, you kind of have a decision to make here, because you can either try to pierce into the site directly, or you can try to wrap mid, maybe deal with cat, maybe split into CT for taking either A or B. This is a really strong place to enter through, right? If you have this part of the map neutralized, this mid B cat area, and like CT by extension, this is a really nice place to play, because what you're going to see is there are 2 places, and yet again, I'm talking from the perspective of this is where the bots play, but I imagine this is where a lot of normal players would choose to play. There are 2 angles in particular that are really dangerous on this site. This one, and I guess by extension this one, although this is usually, this I would view as an extension of this, because a lot of times people would just kind of play this area here and just kind of, work it, I guess. Those 2 angles are the most dangerous to play against. And so you could take these fights, right? I mean, obviously this is something you can do, but this entrance, A main, I wouldn't necessarily consider the most advantageous. I would say your fights are easier from here, right? Because you could take this fight straight up directly, and then you have cover to play around to take those other 2 fights. So taking this can be very powerful, but I don't think it's necessary. I like to take A main a lot. So yeah, that smoke's very important. Taking it along is very important. A lot of what you're doing is on the T side is you're kind of split pressuring mid, where you're basically preventing the CTs from bleeding into mid and just kind of ruining your day. And eventually, once you've like defaulted mid a bit and just kind of like dealt with the CT aggressors, at that point you can kind of choose how to finish. Or if you're doing a set play, you can just kind of bifurcate mid a little bit, you know, by throwing a smoke here. If you're going to do a B-long take, for example, and then crossing, you know, it's kind of like nuke in that sense, where, you know, splitting up the open area can give you a way to get to important parts of the map. But yeah, that A-long smoke is the first one I like to throw, as far as like, you know, determining the philosophy of Abaddon on the T side. Second one I like to throw is this one right here. You aim for the middle of the brick, jump through. And this one is going to smoke off middle. See, it's already smoked by the time I make it through through T-mid, or T-con, or whatever you want to call that. Yeah, this smoke is very important. This corner is a very powerful one to play as a T player, because they can catch you in these two spots if you're trying to either bleed into mid from the A side, or if you're trying to take a long control. This is a pretty fast timing. This is probably the one area of the map the CTs are going to aggress the most, is from mid, is what I'm calling this section. So smoking that off is actually really important. And as far as like following up on that, actually, hold on. Can I test something live? I'm actually curious about this, because I've actually never tried to do this. Let me see here. I'm going to tap W while I do that and see if that lends a different result. Because I feel like if I hit that box harder, this one would be better. I mean, it's like kinda better. Like pretty much the same smoke though. I guess this is technically better now I think about it, because you're, you know, kind of blocking cat there. Anyways, whole point is to prevent aggression into plat. Well, not necessarily prevent, but like, you know, hinder aggression into plat here. And a lot of times you're gonna combo that with a molly down into tunnels. Okay, that is if you're not like garbage at the video game. Yeah, that's what I meant to throw. That is the second most common aggression point, I would say, for CTs, is spawning and then going through the staircase hole to aggress into tunnels and to kind of deal with this fight. Now keep in mind this is a little countered from the T side, because they have a Dust 2 an old Dust 2 situation going on where they can see this angle directly from T spawn. So that is something to keep in mind on the CT side and the T side, I guess. But yeah, if that's not going to be a problem, or if like say this is smoked off, how big is that smoke going to be? Oh yeah, no, that's fine. If this is smoked off, for example, CT's aggressing in this angle is actually really important, because you can really use this pit to separate your B-long and A-long fights depending on the read you have. Or if you just send two CTs to aggress there, you have that smoked off. You have send one up the right side to deal with the A-long stuff, and then you send one guy up the left side without making yourself visible to the other, and just kind of dealing with the B-long aggression. So yeah, this pit is very powerful. And so dealing with mid early is easy. Throwing this Molotov, I'm sure there's a better. I'm almost positive there's a better lineup for that. I just don't know it right now. But yeah, that portion of the map is really important. So that smoke can make a big difference. Keep in mind a lot of what I'm showing in theory, because, you know, I'm the only one that's throwing utility because I'm playing with a bunch of bots, but assuming you had like a full team of 5, you'd have someone throwing each of these smokes, or just throwing the ones that you need based on the call out of spawn. But if you're just defaulting, throwing all 4 of these smokes is probably your best bet, and taking fast map control is probably your best bet as well. The third smoke that I'm going to throw you is the one that I throw the most, because of the emphasis on, you know, making sure the B pit rather is taken care of. I like to throw this smoke off the rip, where, see this line down the middle of the texture? I line it up with the line slightly above into the dark part, jump throw. And what that's going to do is it's effectively going to smoke off B pit. I'm sure there's a science as to how far into the like dark zone above you need to be aiming for this to be optimal, but this is pretty much what you're wanting. As long as they're not able to shoot at you from all the way down there, you've done it correctly. Because if they are going to aggress pit with this smoke, not only can they not do this anymore without, well, I guess they kind of can. Either way, they're coming out of that smoke looking at like 3 different angles, and it's just a pain in the ass for them, and it makes this a problem. So yeah, smoking that off is very valuable. One thing I like to do as a solo, utility thrower, an opening volley that I like to do, to put it that way, is I will throw the smoke, make my way into T-mid or T-con or whatever, and I will just molly plat. I might follow that up with a nade, depending on how I'm feeling, to kind of do extra damage or possibly even kill someone if they've aggressed their way up. There's a science, I'm sure, behind the lineup of trying to get this molly deep into mid or getting it onto plat directly. I don't know. I'm not smart enough for that right now. But I'll often combo that with like a flash right here just to deal with that aggression, or if they've made it on all the way onto plat, it will blind them if they're looking toward T-con. So yeah, that's an opening volley I like to throw to try to get into mid early and to start taking some important fights. So yeah, that's the third smoke. The fourth smoke I like to throw. There's actually a really important piece of context, because we're about to talk about the B-long take here. An important piece of context to keep in mind is on the CT side. By the way, this B bomb site, probably one of my favorites in all of Counter-Strike. Big fan. Fun fact, before I even knew that Abaddon existed, or Abaddon or whatever, because I heard about this map from that Desolence video, or that DE Zolance video, where he's talking about 1.6's most popular community maps. Before I even heard about this map, I had created a map in Counter-Strike Go, Mobile Offensive, CSGO, whatever, called DE_Cage, which was supposed to be set in a prison. And one bomb site was really similar to this one, where you have a balcony entrance from the T's onto a catwalk that they can then work to try to clear some angles, or they could just drop off and start taking some fights, in combination with a thing you can do on the CT side, where if you spawn in, run through double doors, you can jump up onto these boxes. This is something that you probably weren't able to do in 1.6, but because we're in Counter-Strike 2, you are able to do it, because your player character is taller in CS2 than it was in 1.6, so these boxes are actually something that you can scale now. But yeah, you're able to take this angle. It's a crazy headshot angle that you can look all the way down to the B-long. It's very difficult to deal with. I'm sure if this map was played a lot as the meta developed, you would be able to memorize on the T side about where that head's going to pop up. So you'd be able to just like pre-fire that. But then the meta would develop on the CT side, where they try to make themselves harder to hit. They bob and weave a little more. They pick a slightly different spot on the box to stand, You even have this on the T side to deal with any B-long aggression, which is cool. But because, in general, we don't want to deal with that headshot angle because it is extremely dangerous, the smoke that I like to throw... Okay, there's two variations of smoke. One is very inconsistent, but it's preferable, and the other is pretty consistent, but it's not as preferable. I'm going to show you the second one now. This is the one that I've been throwing. You aim for the right side of this brick. Make sure you're in the corner. Jump throw. You get a natural slide off of this slanted box. And where that's going to land is right there. It's not perfect. There's kind of a gap on the left side. Fortunately, that doesn't really matter as far as like the headshot angle goes. You're smoked off entirely. The only problem would arise if someone was playing like, I don't know, like this side cat. This would be pretty easy to break and get info through. But, how often is that going to happen is kind of unknown. I've never really found myself in a position where I've wanted to do that. Well, I guess that's not true. And that would become a strategy if that smoke kept being thrown. Either way, that's not even my preferable one. One that I like to throw, that's a little inconsistent, hopefully I'm throwing it correctly, is this one right here where I actually aim for the middle of the brick. And if this works correctly, which I believe it did this time. Yeah, you get that right there, where it actually lands on the catwalk. It blocks off that headshot angle entirely, which is great. I mean, we're just totally denied. Can't even break it. It's that part that makes this smoke extremely valuable. Matter of fact, let me re-throw this so I can really show you the value of this smoke. Yeah, having that waterfall with that smoke is extremely important because it gives you a way to scale down this ladder and make your way. Am I still on the ladder? Where am I? Oh yeah, I'm right here. To make your way out of here without having to deal with this fight right here until you're already here, or it gives you, you know, the ability to deal with this corner fight or that corner fight, which are common just camping angles for the CTs in the site. And you get to really decide how you want to play this, especially if you have another smoke and you just want to smoke that off in combination. Like if you're two different players, you have one guy throw that one, and then you send a guy in to throw that smoke, you've got a lot of control over this bomb site at that point. So that's a smoke I'd like to be landing every time, but that one's a little inconsistent from, or you like have to take your time with it. The best way to do that might actually be to delay it, where you send a guy with your smoke up here, you throw that one, that way you're giving yourself time to actually like really line it up, make sure it's perfect. You throw it, as soon as it plumes, this guy gets out of here, deals with this in some way with a flash or smoke or whatever. Assuming someone's taking mid control, you made your way down here, you get out somehow, smoke that off, take your fights, you know, I don't know. Taking control of this bomb site as a T can be really fun. And you don't necessarily have to smoke this off, right? If they're neglecting to play this angle, they just don't know it, or you've already killed this player, and assuming this has been dealt with in one way or another, possibly it's just been like smoked, you know, I don't know. Taking fights in this bomb site is actually extremely fun, and throwing utility and like, you know, just making a mess. Making a mess of this bomb site as a T is extremely fun. In my opinion. A lot of fun. I like this concept for the bomb site with the whole balcony entrance and cat is one that I would quite frankly like to steal. I mean, maybe not like exactly the way it's done here, but you know, from a conceptual standpoint, I just love this idea so much, and I've done it before. I liked it then, I like it now. It's one that I definitely want to be incorporating. And I guess that's part of my curiosity behind this video from a theory crafting perspective is if you're a theory crafter, or if you're someone who played this map a lot, you know, back in the day, or maybe even now, if you actually play this port of the map, I'm curious how this plays. If you have any information regarding that, or if you're a theory crafter and you kind of have a, you know, a high-level experienced idea of how this would play out, does something like this work as far as like a balcony T entrance into a cat? Like, does this work? Because I feel like it would, but that's what I'm afraid of, is that someone is going to have some answer to this question that is going to like know about a factor that I just haven't thought of, and that's going to dash this idea. But for now, I really like this concept. And as far as just kind of my concluding thoughts for the T side, this whole mid portion of the map, I freaking love this. I love that you have to be smart on the T side, and even on the CT side. You have to be really smart about what you're pressuring in this midsection, how you're pressuring it, because you don't always have cover pieces to protect you. You don't just have straight up walls and, you know, like, look at this massive area right here. You don't necessarily have a way other than this cover piece to, like, protect yourself if you're trying to cross into A-long. Like, you have to be very precise about, you know, identifying the pressure, dealing with it with either util or with, you know, shooting them. You have to really think about how you're going to do that. One, you're going to do that. You have to pay attention to the tendencies of the CT side. You have to pay attention to the way they play. You have to see, are they going to be aggressive or are they going to be passive and just play off of CT spawn? And if that's the case, you need to start breaking CT spawn. You need to start emphasizing tunnels control. You need to start emphasizing mid control, and you need to really break CT spawn if they're just going to play off rotations and they're just going to camp and be nerds, you need to break them. Like, you need to get into CT spawn, you need to take away their most powerful rotation, and you need to say, no, no, this is off limits. I am taking the B site. You will not be going down A ramp to get to the B site. That's not going to happen. Yeah, dude, I love this map. Like, from a theory standpoint, this map is really, really exciting to me because there's no other map like that. I have never, ever, ever encountered a map like this where you have a free, open, like, sandbox area that you get to decide. You get to play rock, paper, scissors, and you get to say, okay, I want this. In this moment, based on the way they're playing, or based on the thing I know my team is good at, this needs to be the priority. We need to take this piece of map control in this way, with this utility and these gunfights, and we're going to use that to win the round. And because of this area, another thing to note is that rotations are fast. From both a CT and T perspective, if at any point you are in a moment where you're maybe uncomfortable taking A long, you're afraid of what's waiting for you past the smoke, you can just leave. Take tunnels control, maybe try to work long tunnel, right? Maybe get some B presence, or maybe even try to throw utility from up here to work out some positions, or maybe just straight up move into B long from mid, or maybe take mid control, or maybe wrap all the way around. I mean, your options on T side are unlimited, and the same goes for CTs. If you manage to take mid control early, that puts the Ts in a really bad position. And here's the thing, as a T, your game isn't over if the CTs win mid. If the CTs win mid, you can take gunfights, you can use utility to weed them out of positions or to negate them, right? I'll have rounds sometimes, even when I'm playing against bots, where the CTs will aggress B long, they'll aggress B ramp, they'll aggress mid, they'll aggress long, all at the same time. And that's where the utility, that's where these smokes and Molotovs and whatnot, that's where they become so important, is to really give yourself the fair chance to pick a fight, take it, win it, and play off of it. And of course, using your flashes smartly. You know, I'm not showing flashes necessarily because I feel like they're kind of straightforward. I mean, this is one that I'll throw sometimes to stop CT aggression on the long, for example, right? Or if you're wanting to flash the gap on B long to cross, right? That's something you could do in theory, or to take a fight, or to, you know, alleviate pressure in the midsection. Yeah, this map, from a theory standpoint, is just something I'm absolutely in love with. This concept, combined with the B site design, and even the A site, to be completely honest. The cover placement in the A site is actually extremely intuitive. I'm a huge fan. The bomb plant chest that you can play on this bomb site is really fun. You have a free long plant, that's really fun to use. You have like a safe plant here that's really fun to use. You have a forward position one if you want to play these corners. You could obviously plant further, or I guess the best place to put this would be like here. That way someone can't be watching you from there, but you want to plant for mid or this like back section, this connector section, right? There's also a safe plant back here. I think I already showed this, but yeah, I mean, really, really fun. One thing I like to do actually on this bomb site is I'll place on this corner. I'll plant here, and then I'll play the pit here. And depending on how you play this, you know, you play your crouches right, you can actually see their head when they're defusing. Or if you want to play the ladder, if you're like maybe in a 1v1, at this range, the ladder inaccuracy really isn't a problem, and you can just kill them, right? Because the bomb's literally going to be right there. Yeah, this map from the T side is something I am obsessed with. And as far as the CT side goes, aggressing mid is really important. You don't have to, I would say, right? Obviously, you have this angle to work with, right? There's some spots on site that you can rat, or you can work around this cover to really deal with some interesting problems. You could throw some fun util. That's a molly I like to use a lot to prevent them from actually taking the plat control or the smoke. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll play this at the beginning of the round for info. If I don't see anything, I'll just smoke it off, because the fact of the matter is that depending on the comms you're getting from your teammates, they could already be on mid plat and could be making their way in that way, right? That's why taking mid control is so important from teammates sometimes, is taking B, even if the CTs have somebody ratting in CT mid, right? And you want to take B, but you don't want to take B long because you know someone's going to be on this angle. Taking mid plat can be extremely important in combination with a tunnels push, right? You can get a lot of work done. That's what I love this map, bro. You choose your destiny, and that's what makes this map so freaking cool. Yeah, CT side, yet again, pretty straightforward. Spending the B site, pretty fun. Tunnels control, really important. You can play either pit, depending on your rotations. CT is actually an area that ends up being important to hold because of what I was talking earlier, where if you want to be passive on the CT side, controlling CT spawn, especially with this cover placement. By the way, this is just so well thought out. The designers really thought about everything because they actually provide a good amount of cover in CT to control this, right? This section right here between the doors, the tunnels entrance, and the stairs, it's actually extremely fun to play with an op and to kind of lock CT spawn down from the T players. Or like maybe in a post plant, for example, on the T side, you could dip into CT spawn if the CTs are aggressed into mid and kind of use that against them and prevent them from getting back into CT spawn. This area is just really fun. Tunnels control is important. You can play either ramp. You can aggress long. You could aggress this. I guess con, right? You can guess con, kind of get a crossfire set up, use some utility. Like this map, dude, this map is just brilliant. I don't necessarily know if this is how this played on 1.6, right? I've found some footage of this map being played, and some of what I'm saying I was able to confirm by watching that, but I feel like there's a lot of higher level ideas that I've been presenting that I haven't necessarily been seeing. And there's really no way to see that because people aren't necessarily like getting on Counter-Strike with 9 other people and being like, "Hey guys, let's play this largely unknown map." I say largely unknown. That's not fair. To the 1.6 community, this was pretty known, but you know, for the greater Counter-Strike community now, let's play this largely unknown random map from 1.6 that's extremely open and kind of small. Like, I don't know. That's not always going to play out. You're not going to see the testing for it, but I just think this map is incredibly fun. There's a lot of concepts, like that whole being able to choose your own destiny with having a large open aim map style area, having this catwalk balcony B-site situation, having a tons similar to Anubis but way better in combination with a mid-take. Like, yeah, a lot of yapping. Lot of yapping. I definitely digress. But it's just because I'm passionate about this map. This map is really fun. I think the designers knocked it out of the park. I understand that this map works differently now than it was intended to in 1.6, but regardless, the thought and attention that went into this map by the designers is extremely commendable. I think this map is an extremely underrated gem, and I think some people should give it a try. And if you have any information, theory craft, experience, otherwise, you know, let me know in the comment section down below. I'm curious to hear what you have to think. That's the reason I'm making this video, is because I want to get an idea for the community opinion on these maps. And yeah, so a lot of yapping later. That leads me to the end of the video. So I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe if you're interested in this kind of content, or if you you know, if you want to get a notification for when that other video goes up for the other map I want to talk about. That would definitely be appreciated. And yeah, don't forget to comment if you have any input. I really don't care what it is from a theory crafting experience. Otherwise, I don't care. Feel free to comment. I'm really curious to hear what you have to say. And if you feel like I missed anything, let me know as well, because, you know, I'm kind of scatterbrained. I'm sure I missed something important. But yeah, all that to say that I appreciate you guys, and this is Jay out.